Hi everybody, my name's Andrew Allen Matthews. You can call me Andy. Now I'm going to show you the way I paint and produce my art and have a laugh along the way. Now my art is not a mathematical equation, it's a free-flowing style. My art is for enjoyment, art for art's sake. Okay, so I used to work for the textile design industry as a commercial design separation artist and reproduced textile designs for the furnishing, fashion industry for a decade. Now I reproduced designs for Laura Ashley, Sanderson's, Liberty Designs, Recteller, ABC Batik and all the major high street brands in the UK. So I enjoyed my career in textiles, but it was restrictive, precise and detailed and did not allow me to express my art in my own way as I do it now. Okay, so my art has now developed into my own style and I enjoy painting in the way I do now. I now sell my art online through my own website, andrewallenmatthews.co.uk. Check it out. Also, I'm the best selling artist with artgallery.co.uk. Now, I'm going to show you where I paint and how I paint, and hopefully it's not like watching paint dry. Okay. So, leading on from my last video of the actual sketch, so that's the actual sketch of Piccadilly Gardens in Manchester. So that's if you look to the previous video, it just goes on about that sketch of Manchester Piccadilly. And the actual, so I went out on a night out with my mates before Christmas. It's after Christmas now, and I took some photographs of Piccadilly Gardens and they were fantastic. The fountains in the centre of Manchester, they had it was all night scene, they had all lights shining through the fountains in all different colours and I just was mesmerised by it. So I took some photos of that scene and that's what I'm going to be painting today, of Piccadilly Manchester, because I love Manchester and that's what I'll be doing today. So like I say, I went out with my mate and we had a good laugh and a joke and it was just a really good night, so I thought I'll do a painting of Piccadilly Gardens now. Let's give you a bit of history about that as I start the painting. Now, as always with myself, I always start off with a ultramarine blue paint and I'll use a crimson red. And what I want to get is a nice deep purple colour to paint the edges of the canvas. So just mix it up with a largish brush that I'll use, and what I'll do is I try and mix it in to get a deep purple colour. This is for the edges of the canvas, because what you're doing, you're producing yourself something that looks nice because what I do with my paints is I like to hang them on the wall without any framings, and that's the kind of way a lot of artwork is nowadays. So I'm just painting the edges in that nice deep purpley colour that I like. Just sets it off and make sure you've got your full coverage so there's nothing showing on there. Okay. Right. So Piccadilly Gardens is steeped in history. So I'll give you a bit of history about that. So before 1755 the area was water filled with clay pits, and it was called the Daub Holes, and the lord of the manor donated the site and the pits were replaced by a fine ornamental pond at the time. And in 1755 also the Manchester Royal Infirmary was built there and on the street, and it was stood on what was then called Lever's Row in Piccadilly there. That was back in 1755. Now in 1763 the Manchester Royal Lunatic Asylum was built next to the Manchester Royal Infirmary. I'm a nutter anyway, so I can relate to that. They used to treat the people who had mental health issues back then in a completely different way than they do to them today. Obviously any slight sign of out of the ordinary, he kind of locks you up and did all sorts of stuff to you, giving you bloody electric treatments and all sorts of things. That's not the way they do things nowadays, luckily. Now I suffer from stress, and I've been off work now for probably about 8 months now, just recovering from the stress myself, and luckily the company I work for, which is the co-op, they've been supporting me in this, and I'm very thankful for that. Like I say, I want to get back into work again. I've got my bills and mortgage to pay and everything, and I've never been one for, you know, staying off work or try and get into work as much as I can, you know. So yeah, like I say, you're steeped in history, Piccadilly, Piccadilly Gardens especially, and but in 1910 the Manchester Royal Infirmary moved to its current site on Oxford Road in 1908, and the sunken gardens that was there when I was a kid was the actual remnants of the hospital basement. So when they demolished it, it was at a big excavation point, and they turned that into the gardens of Piccadilly. That's why it was a sunken garden back then. Now I'll show you a picture. So that's me in Piccadilly Gardens when I was a young lad, and that's what the gardens look like, all full of flowers in bloom and all greenery. And it's like a bit like a haven in the centre of Manchester, and Piccadilly's like the hub of Manchester, where everybody comes in from either from the buses or not far away Piccadilly train station, and it's kind of like the hub of Manchester where everybody starts off really. And I remember when I was a kid, it was like a bit of a haven, a very green space, and it was like quite nice really. And that's what it was like. So anyway, I've done the actual edges of the canvas on there now, so that's your starting point. So where we move from. Okay, right, so I'm just going to move that in there. Right. So I was looking at this painting. I was on my last video, I said I was going to do me in really bright colours and things on this one, but looking at it, I think I'm going to do a moody sky in like darker colours on this one, and I'll give that a go. Because I'm going to have the base dark colours as well, but like with lots of reflections from the lights from the trees on the in Piccadilly Gardens, and also the reflections from the fountain, because I think that'll look really nice. So let's have a look. So I've got like a purpley colour for the edges of the canvas. I'm going to start with the sky, and let's have a look. I think I'll get some more reds in it as well, so I'll get some reddy colours. I'm going to give it some nice rich moody colours that I'm thinking of here. So let's have a look. It's kind of a mixing up to think what the colours I think, because in that at night skies aren't black, you know, they're very rarely black. There's all the reflections from the buildings and everything, and all the lights from all the city. So I think I'm going to do them in nice rich colours of like reds and purples on the sky. So I'm just going to add a bit more ultramarine and a bit more reds, different coloured reds as well. That's that one. Crimson again. So I'm going to mix it all up into different shades of this. So let's have a go. So I'm going to start applying my paint. I'm going to do it quite thickly, and see what that's like. So I'm going to do my purples as well in the sky. Like dark, rich colours, I think. And applying them, just applying them in a free-flowing style. You know, you don't have to worry about what you're placing down. It's trying to get the nice, pleasing colours and get as much coverage on as possible. Not too much paint, but not too little paint either. I'm just getting the pleasing colours you want in the sky. So I'm just building this up now and get some rich browns, like reddish purpley browns, like a nice rich sky. Now, like I say, Piccadilly steeped in history, and during and after World War II the area was used as a makeshift allotment as Britain's rationed, and they put vegetables. This was during the actual the war. There was lots of rationing going in up and down, all around the UK, all over the place, and the actual had vegetables growing in Piccadilly Gardens, and as they were doing the rationing, and they did that much of the land in Piccadilly Gardens. Now, when the actual war ended, there was lots of celebrations as well. They also put air raid shelters actually in Piccadilly Gardens on there as well when the Luftwaffe were bombing Manchester as well, in the Manchester Blitz. And I think I told you my last story about my dad. Now, when he was a young boy, he was born in 1940, my dad, and he remembered when he was a very young child sitting on Great Western Street in Moss Side, and he remembers a Messerschmitt or an aeroplane coming down strafing Great Western Street where he was sitting at the time. Obviously his mum brought him in, but yeah, it's one of the stories of my dad's early recollections. I've got a picture of my dad somewhere in Manchester, and there was a tank behind him or rolling by on that. So have a look at that. Yeah, I've got some nice colours going on in there. I'll just let you have a quick look at that. So there's looks like probably quite dark on the picture. They are quite dark, but they're all. I've not used blacks. I don't tend to use blacks in my paintings as try and get as much colour as you can. And you want to try and I use my blacks in different ways, by using for structures, for building, for lampposts and all sorts of things as well. So that's my sky I've done. So I'm gonna, I think I'm happy with that sky. Maybe might get a bit of red on there, I think. Put a bit of red on the sky just to highlight it a bit, I think. Yeah, just to give it a bit more variety on the sky, I think. So I'll kind of get a bit of reddy colour on it, I think, as well. And put that in and add a bit of red. Just to get a bit of movement on the sky, I think. It did look slightly without movement there, so I think I've added a bit of red just to give it a bit of movement on the sky. Yeah, that's coming along okay, that. So I'll just show you that bit as well. So just add a slight bit of red on it just to give it a hint of movement in the sky where the clouds are moving across. Okay, so I'm going to do the actual ground now. So on the picture itself there's like reflections of these whites and yellows, and there's the fountain colours coming through, and there's like spotlights around the fountain. But what I'm going to do start off with, I'm going to put a base down. So I'm going to use different colours. You can use sap greens, using my purples and reds. I'll mix them all on the same plate to get the colours that I'm looking for. So I'll just do a mixture of colours that I think looks nice. Right. So it's just really to get a base down from the actual painting, and they can be all sorts of different colours because you have all lights and things, and I'll be adding the colours on this as well, as it's reflecting. So just get a bit more, get a bit of purple on there, purples. Like I said, there's lots of colours. It's going to be it's going to be darks. So bringing me darks and lights together on the painting, and emphasising the colours at night. So that's what I try and tend to do. Try and bring the colours to life on the painting. Get lots of coverage on there as well. I'm going to get some blues on there. All about colours. If you notice, I'm just using the same brush, but because they all kind of interchange the colours when I'm applying them on the canvas. So it kind of makes my colours up on the canvas and also on the palette as I'm doing it. I use quite a lot of paint on here because just what I do really. Because I like the free flowing. The type of paints I use are like gradual acrylics, and also you get all different types of acrylic paints in like shops like Home Bargains and places like that. I also get my paints from Hobbycraft as well. And the type of paints that I use is like a quite nice, pleasing, nice fluid colours. Because the paints are fluid and you can move about. It's part of my style where it's like a nice free flowing style that I use. So like I say, it's getting the coverage down quite quickly, because all it is, it's just the base that I'm putting down as a starting point. So like I say, during the Blitz, the Manchester Blitz continued, and the city had never seen such devastation, and the Nazis boasted that Manchester had been burned to the ground, which luckily it didn't actually happen. It didn't burn to the ground, it survived, but there was a lot of devastation around the areas. And when I was growing up in Moss Side, there was lots and lots of derelict houses, and I don't know if that was remnants of the actual Blitz or whatever, but there was lots of derelict houses where I was. Now when I was a kid in Moss Side, I grew up in Moss Side, and kids were kids back then, and they used to like, it wasn't rogues or anything, we were just keeping kids being kids. But all the derelict houses, we used to make dens out of them, it was because we had a lot of bullying gangs in Moss Side at the time as well, and we kind of used them dens to get away from it. But I haven't changed my childhood for the earth. It was my mates are brilliant, been there for me all this time. So like I say, around about when the war ended, it like Mancunians danced on the streets and in Piccadilly Gardens on VE Day on there. So there's lots of history steeped in Piccadilly Gardens, and also about 2001 to 2003, Piccadilly Gardens reconfigured in 2002 at a cost of £100 million, which is a lot of money. And there's with this water feature which I'm actually painting today, and the concrete pavilion was designed. The whole area was designed by a Japanese architect called Teido Ando. Now, like I say, the concrete pavilion, it's a bit of an eyesore, and like I said on my last video, I think locals call it the Berlin Wall, because it does look like a bit of a Berlin Wall. And like I say, the views around Manchester and around Piccadilly in this area, I do like the views that I've got, especially at night now, because it looks fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do, I've just put my base down. I'll show you that again. So that's my base I've put down on there, and I'm going to put some highlights on this now. So where I've got the picture, don't know if you can see, there's like slight reflections of the waterfall and the lights around the area, and there's lights, like trees are full of all lights and things in this area, so I'm going to be adding that later. So I've added my base down, just add a bit more than that. Right, so I'm going to add reflections on there. So there's like oranges, whites, there's like purpley colours, there's all sorts of different colours, and I'm going to add some reds in as well and some yellows. So let's get some colours in, get some nice vibrant colours. Now with acrylics, they're not as vibrant as oils, so I tend to put my colours on quite nice strong colours, so when I actually varnish it, the colours zip out of the paint. Right, so what I do, I've got my palette knife, nice sharp palette knife that I use, and I'm going to add these colours in now. So I've got some reflections on the floor here, like I say, just getting it on, and just how I think is right. There's some reflections off the street lights and all sorts of things, so I'm just going to put my yellows on first. Get them on, get a bit more yellow on that as well. So that yellow is Naples yellow, it looks really nice that when it's on. Just got to be careful with the way I'm putting it down. Like I say, I've not used any blacks at the minute, because you tend to use, if you use blacks, it kind of muckies and dirties the paint colours up, so you tend not to try and use that. I'm using lots of yellows on here. It's on, at the time when I was there, it was like the ground was slightly wet, so you're going to get like reflections of lights and things off on the ground as well. So I'm going to use some oranges as well. You kind of just getting as much colour on as you can. Like I say, it's not prescriptive, it's a free flowing style that I use, and it's to try and get the actual reflections of the lights from the street lights, from the fountain, lots of reflections. Now I'm going to do the fountain in a bit. I'm just putting this reflections on first. We get some reds in there as well. Some nice vibrant reds coming through. Like I said, it's not going to be accurate to the actual painting and what's there. It's just what I feel is right. What I think it will look right on the actual painting, and it's in a free flowing style. Now the way I paint my paintings is for enjoyment. Because you've got to enjoy what you're doing when you're doing your paintings, and that's what my art's about. It's art for enjoyment. when I used to be in the textile design industry, my work was as a design separation artist was extremely detailed, and you had to do everything exactly accurate, because that's what you know you were paid to do that, to not to detract from the design of the painting. But as this is a painting for enjoyment, you do it in what you feel's right, you know. So I've got them down. Going to get some whites on it as well now, because there's lots of white light on here as well. So get any whites on there. You can see lots of reflections of white there as well, so I'll get some white on. A nice bright white light coming through from the buildings. There's also from the lights from the trees that you can see. So there's lots of colour that's going to be on the ground there, and I'll be creating a movement with the actual ground. There's like lots of cobbles and lots of architectural lines in the ground around it. Like I say, I'm using graduate acrylics and also different types of paint, so it's not just the one type of paint I use. Just them on. I'll show you this in a minute once I've done this bit. Just to see what I've been doing. And it's quite important that you get nice pleasing shapes on the ground and showing the lights. I'm quite happy with that. Now the fountain on this particular picture, it looks like blues and purples, so I'm going to get a nice blues on here. This one, and I'm going to mix some really nice colourful purples as well. So, but before I do that, I'm going to get the shape of the fountain in now. So I'm going to put this fountain in now. So it's going to be quite quick. Just give an emphasis of this. So I'm happy with that. What's that? So just going to get the top of this base on here. Just going to be giving a guide of it. Put this in now. So I'm just adding like purples and deep blues and things on the base of the fountain area, just to give an indication. And then once, what I'll do is when I put the buildings in and the colours in the buildings, I'll be doing that. So that's just I'll just show you this now of what I've done. So that's only the starting point of it. I'm going to be putting lots of movement in the ground as well on this one.